Welcome back to another build guide under 5 minutes, guys. Today we're going to be going through the perk staff. So we're going to go through the weapon, the curios, and then the talent tree. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. I'm running the Deimos Force Sword. And don't forget, if you like the comment, subscribe. Channel's really young, helps a lot. Anyways, back to it. Deimos Blaze Force Sword is what I'm running. I like to use the warp attacks, and I like to poke light weak spots with it because there's a great light poke and then heavy poke combo that's really fun to do. But you want to take Carapace and Maniac, or maybe Unyielding damage instead of Maniac, and you want to have high damage and high first target, and the others are kind of up to you. They're not as important. You can also totally run the Dueling Sword is probably even better than the Deimos. In fact, it most definitely is if you have a great Dueling Sword that's geared towards taking Carapace and high armored targets, large targets on. Or the Chain Sword is also fantastic. Really, this is what your melee sword is doing, is it's making up for those high value Carapace armored target damage that our Purg Staff lacks. So, on our Purg Staff, the bread and butter of the weapon. You need your top three are damage, burn, and cloud radius. Cloud radius is not the end of the world. You can just spam it around yourself. It's totally fine. And then you have warp resistance and quell speed are not as important. The staff lacks on flak damage, so we take flak damage for sure. And then I'm taking increased crit strike chance because we stack a ton of crits on this build, and I hit anywhere from 1.5 to 2,000 crits per game with this build, so absolutely fantastic. You bump that up a little bit more. You can also take Maniac damage in this spot, or unarmored enemies for some reason. We already do a ton of unarmored damage, but you can take Maniac damage as well. Then we take Warp Nexus and Warp Flurry. Warp Nexus stacks our crit chance. Fantastic. We want to hit more crits. And we have Warp Flurry, reduces our change secondary attack. There is another blessing you could take instead of Warp Flurry. In my opinion, it would be the whatever the blessing's called. It suppresses enemies nearby while using your secondary attack. That'll help you keep from getting hit. But in my opinion, you can just dodge dance around a little bit while using your secondary action. You should be just fine, especially since the staff already has a lot of stagger. And in addition to that, you're either using your primary attack for stagger, or your charge secondary attack. Both are great at staggering. The left is best for staggering poxbursters and dogs and hounds that are jumping at you. But when you hit crits with Soul Blaze, it applies double Soul Blaze. So keep that in mind. That's why we're stacking tons of crit for this build. Then, to the Curios. We have 20. I have 2 max healths and a toughness. Put plus toughness on your toughness ones and plus health on your health ones. Gunner resistance to all of them, and then maybe block efficiency or whatever you want. Ordo dockets in your third one, whatever, up to you. Then we get to the talent tree, the holy grail of the build. Now, this is nothing special about this build. I'm going to have another Purg Staff build that's going to come out. That's going to be a Soul Blaze themed build. That's going to be really fun as well, I think, and that's going to be more into Soul Blaze. But for this general Soul Blaze build, I'll try and link that above if I've made it at any time and below. But we're just taking metal because we hit tons of crits. Gives us toughness and movement speed. Great. Perfect timing. On crits, we get warp damage. That's fantastic because we're warping all the stuff all the time with our Purg Staff. 7.5% toughness on warp attack kill. We're killing tons of things with warp attacks because we're using the Purg Staff, not the Surge. Surge Staff would work too, though. Quietude, 5% toughness on 10% peril quelled. That's good, but that's even better given the fact we're using battle meditation. You'll find when we're using this build, the build automatically quells a lot of your peril, and sometimes you'll even run out of peril. You're just quelling so much automatically by killing these large hordes with your Purg Staff. So fantastic to take. You can essentially purg forever. And then we have Perilous Combustion. We take all the Soul Blaze things because we want to apply Soul Blaze to things. This isn't the most important Soul Blaze thing, though, because we're not exactly a specialist murderer. Now we get plus toughness. Now you can either take Smite or Brain Burst. I find that using Smite and smiting large, high-value targets gives my team more time to work, and it's just better all around. I get more value from this than trying to dodge dance around while I get overran by Carapace armored enemies and Brain Burst them. It is good for dealing for snipers that are far away and gunners that are far away. I just overall find that Smite is easier to get a lot of value out of instead of Brain Burst. We have minus peril generation. That's great because we want to purg forever. We don't want to have to stop to quell. So minus 5% peril generation. Wildfire lets all that Soul Blaze you've applied spread to everybody else. That's fantastic. That's what we want. Then we have toughness damage reduction. Great. I take kinetic presence. You could also come through here and take Seer's presence and even Telekine shield if you wanted to. But for this instance, this is my build. This is what I run. I take the kinetic presence plus 5% damage to elites because we can come through this way and gain toughness damage reduction on depending on current peril. The thing is with Seer's presence, our cooldown on our venting streak's already so low that you don't really need it. Venting Shriek is nice. It lets you keep from blowing yourself up, but I find you almost never do that with this build. That's why we're not taking an extra wound. And the reason we're using Venting Shriek is so we can have Creeping Flames, which applies tons of Soul Blaze to everybody around us, which is super fun. Then we have minus 5% peril generation, health. We're going all the way over here to get the crit chance, so we've got 10% crit chance boosted from both our staff and this combined, so that's nice. And then we have Warp Nexus, which can get us up to plus 30% crit chance when we're hitting a lot of guys. That's a lot of crits. And Warp Rider for more damage based on peril. And we come through here and get your classic Warp Siphon, Warp Charge build. We take minus 6% peril generation because we want less peril generation so we can purge forever. And we want Infire Reborn so that we have 10% chance on every Soul Blaze kill. Now this is killing enemy with Soul Blaze, not with them applied. So if you kill an enemy while you're using Soul Blaze, while you're purging them with your main attack, you have a 10% chance to get a warp charge, so you'll find that you can recharge warp charges really easy on this build, and then you can store up to 6 warp charges. So without further ado, thank you guys. That's the build in under 6 minutes this time. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.